our next game is Urban Trial Freestyle. So Austin and I, unfortunately, did not. We weren't able to play the game due to technical limitations, but
It's the flip side of Beat Buddy, basically. We got one, they got one.
exactly. So why don't you guys tell us a bit about your experience with the game?
You want to start off, Jake?
Okay. It's one of those games where you like to sit down and play it. It's not innovative or crazy, but it's just fun to play. You sit down. The graphics are good. I got mine for the 3DS. It's also for the PlayStation 3 and the PS Vita, right?
Exactly.
It's just a fun game. It's in 3D, but it's not.
And it's downloadable, by the way, for
Oh,
all
it's- yeah,
systems. For
yeah.
all systems, yeah.
And it's not intrusive with the 3D like some games where it's like, hey, look, we have 3D. Let's throw it in your face. It just helps if you see right now, the environments are very three-dimensional, so to see them in an actual 3D is really helpful because your player's right in the middle of all this action, right? And it's you drive this motorcycle, you do flips, you do crazy things. It's not it's not going to revolutionize the gaming industry.
We've seen it
but
before.
It's a
But it's
very
well made.
fun game.
Oh yeah, like it's like Ryan just mentioned, it's kind of derivative, right? I mean, like there are things that came before it that did basically what it's doing now.
I mean, it seems like a genre of games which is just you're on a motorcycle, do tricks, and don't fall. Kind of comes out all over the place. And it's definitely great when a game is well made like this one was. I don't have a 3DS, but I played it briefly on Jake's. And the little bit of games I played on there in 3D tend to have annoying qualities. What was the Kirby one that I played?
Oh, it was a remake of an old game that they made into 3D.
Oh, that's a
And the
Kirby Adventure, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the game was fine, but the 3D was hurting my eyes. This 3D
Really?
was, it's what I would imagine when someone says I have a three-dimensional gaming system. It perfectly put your player in perspective with the rest of the world, and it wasn't intrusive, but it wasn't too far back. And the controls were intuitive. It was really simple. One button's accelerate, one's reverse, brake, and then you just have your slider to control the orientation of your player on the screen. So it was really fun. I definitely recommend it. But again, it seems kind of like a repetitive thing that's come up a lot. And like Jake said, you want to sit down and play it. I'd love it for my iPhone. Like a game like that on my phone. I just pull out my phone and play on it. I'm not sure I would want to play it on a PS3 or. That's what you said?
PlayStation 3 and PlayStation Vita. The
Yeah.
Vita makes sense.
Well,
but
yeah, the Vita's but I'm not sure I'd want to play that like sit down at home and actually boot up a whole console for that.
Right, like a PS3 version seems maybe a bit silly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I played it really briefly, and I kind of get what you're saying. It's mission based, right?
Yeah, to
there
an
are several
extent.
different tracks, yeah. And there are several different... You go from
Objectives.
level to level to level, and each level has several different tracks.
Which has
Okay.
objectives, so height, reaching a certain height,
Yeah.
speed that you're trying to accomplish, time.
So is there a good amount of variety between levels?
The environments are very varied. Very varied. But it's obviously just don't fall off, right? But they keep adding more and more things. In the beginning, you just kind of drive, and then you go up, and then you go down, right? But later on, you're jumping from thing to thing, and things are like flying. And they have a few things where there's destructible environments where they go on something and it breaks and you fall. So eventually, it gets varied, but it's one game. You don't want to play it for several hours. You'll get bored.
If you look at the one we have on the screen right now, I agree with that. You can see that there's a lot of well, it just went away, but basically there was a level I was playing on Jake's, and it was basically a construction site, and so you're jumping off all these things, which every game has, but not all of them have swinging crates in the sky, that are hanging from cranes. So you land on that, it brings you over, and there's a certain timing element to it to land on those things and stuff like that. But it's easy enough that it's fun because it's just a sit down and play when you're bored game, when you're waiting for something. But it's difficult enough that it poses a challenge, and you're not just going to get really bored of it. At the same time, what you guys were asking about the variety of it, though, I mean, you really just have a limited amount of shapes that you can paint over with different things. One's a car, and then you take that same shape and you paint it as like a box. So
Yeah.
it's for the most part, any game like that I think is going to have a limited amount of things you can do. But they did a pretty good job making the most of what they have.
Oh yeah, like visually speaking, it looks pretty interesting and pretty
Yeah.
like it compels you to see what the next stage is going to look like, right?
Definitely.
All right, which I think is kind of important for a game that sort of has like a very sort of do this again and again and again premise. And
Like the physics look really nice from what I'm seeing there. Does it feel good?
Yeah, gravity feels great. Landing on things it's like it seems like it's the way it would be. Some motorcycle games I've noticed you can like land on your handlebars and then just go back on your wheels without falling off.
Yeah.
This one's pretty realistic. If you're too far forward, you're falling off.
All right, that's pretty good. And I noticed like there's a lot of moving elements in the stage.
Yeah, and that was great. That was really fun to play with.
Oh yeah, I mean, because like I know that a lot of other similar games that I've played, it's been sort of like go through this course and go do loops, and like it was cool, but like this one seems like I don't know, more like you're going through a place that's lived in. you
Exactly.
know? Yeah. I mean, here's the big moment. What on a scale of 1 to 10, where would you guys put this?
I'd probably go with 7 point something
7 point.
because it's not gonna change anything. It's not the best game of all time, but it says we're gonna be a fun game, and then it's a fun game. There's not much more you can ask.
Well,
from it.
in terms of being like that, a good game like that, don't you think it accomplished that though? Like, I mean, if they set out pretty fully, but didn't they accomplish what they?
Yeah, exactly.
So, okay.
Yeah, no.
That's why it's like a 7 point something. It's far above average, but it's not the best game of all time. It's
Alright.
just a fun game to play.
Like,
All right.
Like it's aesthetically innovative, but not game-wise innovative, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
I'm gonna go out on a limb here, and I'm gonna say it's a 9.
Whoa.
The reason I say that is because, like I said, I'm not comparing this to Halo or GTA 5 or any of those games, but in terms of these 2D and now 3D side-scrolling motorcycle games, it's one of the best I've played. So that it definitely ranks up there on the top of these games. Now, if you ask
And
me to compare,
is it good for the price?
Because the price right now for Urban Trials, at least on the PlayStation Vita, is $9.99, and I think it's the same for the 3DS.
I think that's a really good value for it.
And I think the fact that it's a download title probably helps.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I don't like paying a lot of money for little games that I only play a little bit and like getting an actual thing I have to bring around. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'd rather just have it like down. I'm like, oh, I want this. All right, beep, and then it's there. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah. I mean, like it's like because they're short missions.
Yeah,
you know, like,
exactly.
yeah, so just like, oh, I'm like you said, like I'm the doctor's officer. I got like 10 minutes. Okay, I'll do like 2 missions, then put it away. It's really easy,
Mhm.
and it's just there on your SD card. So that's
Exactly.
great. Yeah.
Exactly.